Welcome. My name is Keith Otterberg, and I'm the Director of Marketing for the College of Continuing and Professional Education at CSUDH. I'll be your host for this presentation. This webinar is being recorded and will be available on our website and social media resources shortly after today's session. Feel free to download the CSUDH Professional Fundraising Certificate Program Information Kit for details about the program and additional resources covered in the webinar. The address is bit.ly/CSUDH-PFC-InfoKit, one word. We have provided a link in the chat for those who are participating live, and it will also be available in a follow-up email to attendees as well as on our website. Before we jump in, I'd like to review the Zoom controls. This session is being presented in a webinar format, so you don't have to worry about connecting your microphone or camera. However, we want your participation. Help us address your needs by using the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen if you are joining us from the Zoom desktop app or web browser, or in the top right of your screen if you're on a mobile device. Please ask your questions in the Q&A panel rather than in the chat panel. Once you click on the Q&A button, a dialog box will open, allowing you to type your question. In the chat panel, we will be providing helpful links and other information. Our marketing staff members, Stephanie Miller and Anison Barton Thompson, as well as Program Manager Elizabeth Legg, are standing by to assist you. We'll be answering those questions at the end of the session, although often you may find the question you have has been answered during the course of the presentation. So let's take a quick look at our agenda. We'll begin by meeting our certificate faculty, who will introduce you to the program via an overview of benefits, expectations, and course details. Then we'll go over registration and login information and address your questions in our Q&A session. We'll also have a survey at the end of this webinar, and we'd love to get your feedback so we can make our future events even better. And if you're on social media, please use the hashtag @CSUDHContinuingEd or tag our social @CSUDHContinuingEd. And now to kick off today's presentation, I'll turn it over to Christopher Doyle, our lead instructor for the program. Chris, take it away.
Hey, thanks, Keith, and welcome everyone to the webinar. I'm so glad you're able to join this informational session. As mentioned, my name is Chris Doyle, and I love fundraising. After all, the first three letters of fundraising are F-U-N, fun. I'll give you just a brief history of my experience in fundraising. I really started after college. I ended up in banking, and then in 1998, I took a position with a nonprofit social service agency, and we needed to grow. The board wanted to grow. So how to do fundraising just made sense to me, and kind of the rest is history. I have led development teams at small and large organizations. You'll see some of them on the slide. Salvation Army, Bethany Christian Services, the Los Angeles Mission in downtown LA on Skid Row, as well as other experiences that I've had. Currently, I'm with Lutheran Social Services of Southern California, which you'll hear in a little while is one of the biggest charities in the United States today. I obtained my certified fundraising executive credentials, which again, you'll hear about in the presentation, the CFRE, in 2016, and then also took the Grantwriting and Administration course at Cal State Dominguez Hills and received my certification in that. Over the years, I've taught fundraising at numerous conferences and seminars actually around the world, and really enjoy sharing the things I've learned. I really like helping others in this field of fundraising to do better, to be better. Some of you tonight are probably seasoned fundraisers or worked in nonprofits for a while, but many of you are probably not. Maybe you're interested in getting involved in fundraising. Let's take a poll to gauge your knowledge of the nonprofit sector. You know a little bit more about me and my experience. Now it's time to delve into what you may already know about nonprofit fundraising. These two questions will gauge your familiarity with the nonprofit sector and fundraising. So here's the questions. Question one, approximately how many charities or nonprofits do you think there are in the United States? You got four choices there. 100,000, 500,000, 1 million, or 1.3 million? The second question, how much was given in charitable contributions last year in 2023? Was it 20 million, 100 million, 10 billion, 450 billion? So go ahead and complete that poll and we'll get results in a minute here. We'll give you time to do that. And while we're waiting, I just thought I'd share a few other factoids about the nonprofit sector. The largest charities in the United States in 2023 by actual budget. Number one, Providence St. Joseph Healthcare, $28.56 billion. Second was Lutheran Services in America, $26 billion. That's the organization that I'm now a part of. And the Mayo Clinic at $18 billion. So as you can see, there's some large charities in the United States. 97% of nonprofits have budgets less than $5 million. So you see the big nonprofits are actually a very small percentage. 92% of charities operate with a budget of less than $1 million, 92%. Only 2% of nonprofits in the United States have a budget greater than $10 million. Are we ready to see the results from the poll? All right. We have a couple people with that 100,000 and nobody picked 500,000. A few people picked $1 million and the majority got it correct, 1.3 million. There's about 1.3 million charities in the US and you add in another couple 100,000 foundations and you're up close to 1.5 million. So how much was given in charitable contributions last year? Was it 20 million, 100, 10 billion, or 450 billion? It was actually 450 billion. So if you chose the number 4 each time or the last one, you got it correct. Did these answers surprise you? Many don't realize how big the nonprofit sector is. So we've looked at that. Let's go to the next. Let's talk about what we mean by professional fundraising. While fundraising in many forms has been around since antiquity, the professionalization of fundraising really happened in the last century. Before that, much was done on an ad hoc or volunteer basis. Of course, organized religion has been quote unquote fundraising for millennia. But with the addition of training courses, conventions, association of fundraisers, and colleges beginning to offer courses and degrees in nonprofit work and fundraising, the last 100 years has been seen a move towards recognizing fundraising, or you might call it philanthropy or development, as a profession and a career path. So what is professional fundraising? I would define it as the raising of resources for nonprofit organizations to fund their mission and vision activities. Fundraisers can actually be paid or volunteer. What makes them professional is doing their work following best practices and using proven techniques and strategies that enhance results and build relationships that last. At the end of the day, fundraising is about relationships. And that's going to be emphasized in this course. Matter of fact, one of the books that we recommend for the course is called Relationship Fundraising. This program will train, educate, and equip people on all levels who want to better understand the process of successful fundraising so that upon completion, the practitioner will be confident in their planning and execution of a good fundraising plan. Let's set the stage by looking at the fundraising industry as a whole. Fundraising as a profession in the United States is growing. With over 1.3 million charitable organizations and new ones being formed every week, there's a lot of opportunities for fundraisers to find great careers with excellent salaries. It's estimated that there are about 12.5 million people working in the nonprofit sector in the US. In fact, I've often said, if you're good at fundraising, you'll never be out of work because charities always want to raise more money. I've never heard a charity say, oh, I've got enough money, we could stop fundraising. No, charities always need to raise more money because there's always more work to do, and they're always looking for good fundraisers. Let's take a look at who's hiring and what they're paying. Fundraisers work in a variety of nonprofit sectors. One of the largest being employer, or one of the largest employers are colleges, universities, schools, including junior colleges, elementary and secondary schools. But the highest number are employed in civic and social service organizations. According to Bureau of Labor Statistics, the average salary for someone in the fundraising industry is $79,108. There's a wide range of salaries based upon position, but here's a few examples at the top end for chief development officers. A chief development officer is generally they run a department, they run a group of fundraisers, like a CEO is the chief executive officer. St. Jude's Children's Hospital, which you probably heard of before in Memphis, they're kind of all over the place. Their chief development officer is paid about $600,000. Goodwill of Southern California, their CDO makes about $300,000. Sharp Hospital Foundation, which is down in San Diego, their chief philanthropy officer, they call him there, has a salary of about $700,000 a year. And the Girl Scouts USA, I looked that up, they offer a salary of about $300,000. So when you get to the top, it's pretty good salaries there. But as I mentioned, the average is about $79,000, and it continues to go up. And if you're a successful fundraiser, a good track record, you can command a salary that's equal with your experience. Let's look more closely for a second here at some of the industries that where fundraisers are employed. Healthcare, hospitals, charities dealing with specific diseases like the Heart Association, the American Cancer Society. I worked at one point for the American Leprosy Missions. There's a lot of charities, nonprofits that deal with various diseases, but hospitals are a big employer of fundraisers. Social service agencies like Salvation Army, Goodwill, Lutheran Social Services that I happen to work for. College and universities, we already mentioned that. And then there's smaller community charities like Rescue Missions, Athletic Association, the Girl Scouts, the Boy Scouts, Boys and Girls Clubs. They all usually employ one or more people in a fundraising department to gather funds and resources for these organizations. There's service clubs like Rotary, Lions Club, Civitan, Ruritan. You've probably heard of many of these organizations. Some of them will have all volunteer fundraisers, but some of them will employ one or more professional fundraisers. There's private schools. Almost every private school has a marketing or fundraising person because they all have to raise money. Tuition doesn't cover the cost of going to school, so they have to raise private funds. And then there's political campaigns and political action committees. They do fundraising as well. As a matter of fact, I got my start really as a volunteer fundraiser for a political campaign back in 1986. That probably dates me a little bit. And then there's also foundations. Many of them have endowments and they just live off of that. But there's also what you call operating foundations where they have to raise money every year to keep going. There's so many more beyond this. And as sure as you explore this as a career, you would find other places that employ fundraisers. Many fundraisers stay with a particular genre like healthcare or education, but there's always opportunity to move around if you have a good track record in raising money and building relationships. As I mentioned, some of the most common job titles include Chief Development Officer, Major Gift Officer, Event Manager, Corporate Giving Officer or Director. At larger organizations, there's VP level titles, Chief, Officer, Director, Manager, Coordinator, Specialist. The list goes on. I think you're getting my point here that there's so many opportunities for fundraisers today. And this course is going to give you that experience, that introduction to many facets of fundraising. And then at the end, you'll have that certificate as you move forward in your career. With so many opportunities out there in fundraising, let's look at an overview of the fundraising program at Cal State Dominguez Hills and how it will prepare you for the kind of career or position for your advancement in the industry. The certificate program, we call it the Professional Fundraising Certificate program. It consists of 4 courses. Each course is composed of 3 sessions or classes of 3 hours each. Once you complete all 4 courses, you'll be awarded the certificate. If you move straight through the courses, you actually could finish in as little as 3 months. It's a very easy and affordable way to obtain a certification that you can use to move up or get into the fundraising or nonprofit world. Let's take a look at who this course might appeal to. Because it's a survey course, it's a really good opportunity for anyone in the nonprofit community to get their feet wet and learn about the fundamentals of fundraising. But a seasoned person could also get a lot from this course. We'll be going through all the different facets of fundraising. It's good for any executive director of a nonprofit, for staff at any level, and I would add for board members who really want to get a better understanding of how they can help their organization raise funds. This program could pique your interest in one particular area, because we'll be talking about a lot of different areas of fundraising, but it might pique your interest in something like grant writing, and then you could pursue the grant writing and administration certification later, right here at Cal State Dominguez Hills. So let's take a dive into the actual course overview and see what exciting topics are going to be covered. So as we discussed, the total program is divided into 4 courses. They're course 913, which is an introduction to fundraising. We're going to cover a lot of survey kind of stuff. 915 is direct response fundraising and individual giving. 917 is institutional giving, which is mostly we're going to be talking about foundations and corporations. And then 919 is major gifts, planned giving, and events. The goal is to touch on all the major areas and channels of fundraising so that the student will get a solid overview with some deep dives into pertinent areas. It's important to note that you must complete course 913 first, which is the introductory course. It's recommended you take them in the order as the courses build on each other, but it's not mandatory except for starting with 913. So let's look at what the course delivery looks like. The courses will be held on weekday evenings live online. So they're online, but they're live. The 3-hour class meetings will be filled with course material, discussion, projects, and great interaction. And it's going to be very practical. I believe in taking a course like this, you need to be able to take stuff you learned that night and apply it the next day. The courses are planned to be year-round. And as discussed, in order to get the certificate, you must attend all classes in their entirety and participate in class discussions, projects, and quizzes. Let's take a look at the class schedule course by course. So course 913 is an introductory course. It will cover the very basics of what fundraising is all about and what you really need to know in terms of foundational information. As with all the courses, the student will get very practical information that can be taken back and put into practice right away. It's not all theory. The course will cover topics that include a brief history of philanthropy, ethics, what makes for a good development team, how do you measure success and efficiency, as well as basic information about who the donors are, how they behave, and how do you build relationships with donors. Good development policies and procedures will be discussed, as well as a framework for a good departmental manual for development. There'll be lots and lots of good handouts and materials to start building your own resource library. So after getting the fundamentals down, it's time to move to course number 2. Course 915 will cover what many consider to be the backbone of fundraising, direct response and individual giving. 80% of the money that's given in the US, 80% is given by individuals. That may surprise some of you, but only about 5% comes from corporations and about 15% from foundations. So I always say, if you really want to raise real money, you need to have a strong focus on an individual giving program. So this course will cover direct response fundraising, which is now both offline and online. We'll look at how to build a donor base of individuals and how you steward them so they stay longer and give bigger gifts and give more often. We'll look at what makes for a good appeal letter, a good newsletter. We'll spend a lot of time on digital fundraising and communication, including social media and how artificial intelligence is changing the world of fundraising. And while digital fundraising is growing, the workhorse of individual fundraising is still direct mail. We'll dive deep into how that works, why it works, and how you can make it work for your organization. Besides individual donors, there are organizations that give to charities. Let's take a look at Course 3, which will cover a wide range of non-individual fundraising opportunities. Course 917, we call institutional giving, or also called organizational giving. This course will cover fundraising from institutions such as corporations and foundations, along with other giving entities like churches, houses of worship, civic groups, and other organizations that donate to charities. The focus will be on how do you approach institutional funders, what are the opportunities, what are the challenges, and what makes for a good proposal. Now let's look at the last course. 919 will cover basic principles of fundraising as it relates to major donors, which can be individuals or corporations or foundations, with additional instruction in planned giving and bequests. As donors move through their giving to charities over the years, some will hopefully become major givers. Now that's a relative term. What is a major gift to a smaller charity may not be the same for a larger charity. But however it is defined, every healthy organization usually has some larger donors, and there needs to be a strategy for keeping the ones you have and gaining more. The course will cover major donor gift development and what we call moves management. It's the common term of how you move a donor from a prospect to a donation and then continue the stewardship process. There will also be time focused on what is called planned giving, which is also called bequests or estate giving and planning. And finally, we'll spend the last class talking about events, board giving, and then pulling all we have learned into what is called an annual giving plan. Now that you've heard all about the courses, what are some of the benefits that you might see from taking this certificate course? The benefits will be that by the end of this certificate program, the successful student will understand the basic principles of fundraising and best practices. You'll gain knowledge that can be applied the next day in your development work or department. You'll make friends that will become resources for you as you continue your career in fundraising. When I took the Grantwriting course, I still stay in touch with people and the instructor from that course. You'll be able to put together an annual fundraising plan for any type of nonprofit. You'll understand what works and what does not work, and how to be efficient and effective. I always say the biggest distraction in fundraising is distractions. Lots of people are chasing shiny objects that will take you nowhere. I'll tell you some of the mistakes that people have made in fundraising, and we'll find out how to be more efficient and effective as you approach a fundraising plan. You'll learn from other professionals in the industry who will appear as guest speakers. And you'll be better equipped to pursue the Certified Fundraising Executive Credentials, also known as CFRE. And you'll have 36 hours of continuing education units towards the 45 hours needed to qualify to take the CFRE exam. So as you can see, there's lots and lots of benefits of enrolling in this course, taking it, finishing it, and getting that certificate. Let's take a minute I mentioned CFRE. Let's take a minute to look at why these credentials are important in today's competitive work environment. CFRE is worldwide, with over 8,000 people certified, and it continues to grow. More and more charities are asking for the CFRE, particularly for upper level positions. Once certified, it lasts for 3 years, and then you must apply again for recertification and meet certain criteria levels, including 45 hours of fundraising training. So every 3 years, you got to book another 45 hours. This course will give you 36. The ACFRE is run by the AFP, or the Association of Fundraising Professionals, and is similar in scope to CFRE, but there are more requirements. It's geared towards senior level fundraising executives and those who are very career minded. The Professional Fundraising Certificate from CSU, Dominguez Hills, will really help you prepare for the CFRE or the Advanced Certified Fundraising Executive credentials, and you'll give you the hours you need for certification. The course here is not a certification program, it's a certificate program, but you do learn the skills needed to proceed to higher certification. And also remember, Cal State Dominguez Hills is approved by the CFRE as an official continuing education approved provider. So all of the hours you earn from these courses count towards the hours you need to pursue the CFRE. In fact, Cal State Dominguez Hills is one of only 3 universities in Southern California that are approved by CFRE. CFRE and ACFRE are 2 milestones to achieve after finishing the course. But I think the student should also be familiar with other professional associations for fundraisers because many people will come to this course and not want to pursue CFRE, but you're going to need to continue to be trained to stay on the cutting edge. Some of the other organizations that we'll be discussing and referencing during the course will be the Association of Fundraising Professionals, which is the largest one in the United States of people who are in the fundraising industry. There's the National Association of Charitable Gift Planners, the Association for Healthcare Philanthropy, the Giving Institute, the National Council of Nonprofits, the Council for Advancement and Support of Education, otherwise known as CASE, and then the American Grantwriters Association. There's many, many more beyond that, but these are some of the main ones where you can get information, you can get further training, you can meet other professionals. All of these organizations offer great training and resources for the professional fundraiser. So even if you're not going to pursue certification, CFRE, down the road, you need training to stay on the top of your game. Well, there you have it. The Professional Fundraising Certificate Program, the first of its kind in Southern California. And now that you've heard all about this exciting program, and I'm excited about it, I'm excited for September to come and start this program. I know you're asking, how do I sign up? Here's some important information. Keith will take it over from here.
Chris, thank you so much. That was incredibly insightful. We're going to come back to you in a minute for our Q&A segment, but first let's look at the course delivery and registration details. Almost all of the CSUDH professional development programs are offered in an online format, which means that students are assigned online access through our campus IT services. Each student will need login credentials to access our student portal called My CSUDH. This portal includes Canvas, which is our learning management system, where course content is distributed, Toro Mail, which is our student email system, and the Zoom web conferencing tool. These login credentials, including your username, email account, and password, are issued through our registration office about 2 to 3 business days after registration in your first course. Course registration for the Professional Fundraising Certificate Program takes place on the program website via our shopping cart system. You can register for courses individually or for all 4 courses at once. Keep in mind that for this program, you must start with the introductory course, as it is a prerequisite for all the other courses. So, to register, you view the schedule on the program's course webpage, csudh.edu/ccpe/fundraising/courses. Click on the course you would like to add to your cart and add to your cart. Then proceed to checkout and provide contact information and payment information. If you need further instruction on this process, please visit csudh.edu/ccpe/registration. We highly recommend that you register early to make sure that there's space in the course and to allow enough time for course information and online access information to be created and distributed to you. For those looking for financial assistance options to help with funding for the courses, feel free to Google private student loan providers or connect with salliemay.com for student loan details. Again, we recommend that you register at least 1 week before the course begins. Once you have received your login information, you'll be able to easily access the Toro student portal to connect with your class. Check your Toro mail and personal emails frequently for special instructions and campus notifications. You'll also want to be sure to test your account access in Canvas and get comfortable with the layout of the class, such as where to find announcements, Zoom meeting schedules, discussions, and the like. Let us know via our academic technology services if you're having any difficulty connecting. So now we come to questions. Let's start off with a few warm-up questions, and I encourage you to ask all your questions in the Q&A panel, and we will answer them as best we can. So Chris, first of all, how would someone get hired as a professional fundraiser if they have no experience?
That is a great question, and I hear that often from people. How do I break into the nonprofit sector? I'd say the number one thing you could do is volunteer. Organizations, most nonprofits are always looking for volunteers. And so you volunteer for an event, you volunteer to do office work, you volunteer to be on a board. Because again, nonprofits are virtually all of them have boards of directors. Some are small, some are large, but they're looking for good board members. So that there may be an opportunity there, but I'd say the number one thing to do is to volunteer. Another way to break in would be to do an internship with a nonprofit, and that way you've got more of a solid agreement there, and you can kind of specify maybe what kind of experience you want to get as an intern. You're actually in there doing the real work, so to speak. Not many nonprofits will offer any kind of payment or a stipend for internship programs, but again, it's the way to get your feet in the door. I've over the course of my career, I've hired many people who came as interns, and then they graduated, and then we hired them. We offered them a job because we found out that they were so good and so tuned in to what we were doing. They were eager to learn. So those are the things. I think if you're involved in a house of worship, you can get involved with maybe a stewardship program there. I've led the stewardship program at my church for a number of years, and so again, it's volunteer work, but it gives you that kind of experience where you're learning, you're participating, you're building skills, and all these things can be added to your resume. And of course, I would put in a plug for this course. I think just having this course on your resume will show that you're serious about fundraising and working in a nonprofit.
Very good. So what does a typical day for a fundraiser look like? What does the work schedule look like? What do they do?
You know, it varies, Keith, by the kind of nonprofits that you're at. You can expect, well, most fundraisers are going to have an 8-to-5 job, but you have events. You have other responsibilities. You might be required to attend board meetings. So it can be evening work. It can be weekend work from time to time. You may, if you're involved in one-on-one fundraising, a major donor officer, you may need to meet a donor when they can meet, and it may be on a weekend. It may be a Saturday at the golf course, whatever it might be. So you have to be flexible, but most of the time you're going to have a pretty standard work schedule, but maybe in and out of the office, visiting clients, doing work around events, things like that.
Very good. Okay. Something everybody always asks, is there homework?
Oh, in this class, yeah, we'll have some homework. I wanna give people real life experience, so there'll be most of it's going to be a little bit of kind of research stuff, exploring other charities, charity websites, signing up for instance, signing up with a charity for their online newsletter, and then critiquing that. It's very practical stuff, but we will be asking people to do one-pagers, react to a fundraising piece, things like that.
Okay. We have a question in the Q&A. Joanna is asking, I am thinking of creating my own nonprofit to help families going through childhood brain cancer. I was thinking these courses will provide me with a head start to understand how to fundraise. And there's not really a question there, but you think this would be a good program for her?
Oh, absolutely. If this is Joanne, if this is your first foray into the nonprofit world, and you want to start a nonprofit, you're going to have to find sources of income. So we're going to start from the very basics, how to find funders, how to develop relationships, how to put together. Most people that start nonprofits are going to be using the digital platforms mostly because they don't have any money to mail things in the regular mail. So we're going to be talking about e-appeals. We're going to be talking about social media fundraising, social media advertising. That's the best way nowadays when you're just starting out, small nonprofits that are just volunteer, bare bones. You've got to use online tools and digital resources to fundraise. So we'll be talking a lot about that. And also, as you're getting started, you may be able to avail yourself of some grants from foundations. A lot of them do grants for startups. So we'll be exploring that, how to write a good proposal, how to write a letter of inquiry. All those things would have great application for somebody who's just starting a nonprofit.
Great. Okay. Brandy is asking, can you speak on getting credit for a nonprofit? And I'm not quite sure what they mean, if they're talking about credit for CFRE or credit towards, perhaps they're talking about internships. Maybe you could speak about both.
Oh, okay. Well, we've already talked that the course is approved for CEU credits. I wonder if she's talking about paying for the course, because I was going to mention that as an additional way of getting resources so that you can afford the tuition. A lot of nonprofits, and maybe one you work with, have tuition reimbursement or education funds that are available for training. And I've done a lot of training. I've had to pay for some myself, but I've done a lot of training through the organization that I worked for, the nonprofit. They had training funds available, education funds. So the other thing, maybe she's talking about working, like you said, as an intern, and then that's usually the agreement. Internships are a little bit more of a formal thing, so you generally have an agreement between the college or the high school, whatever you're doing your internship, and the nonprofit, so that you actually get the credit that you want to get out of the internship there. So
Brandy might also be asking how you get bank credit for a nonprofit. In other words, sort of a line of credit for nonprofits.
Oh, okay.
She's asking about credit cards. Okay.
Oh, credit cards for nonprofits?
Well, both of them, I guess, would be appropriate.
Well, a nonprofit is a corporation, and though it's a nonprofit corporation, but it's still a corporation. Nonprofits have to be incorporated. They have to have boards of directors. They have to have bylaws. They have to have a charter. It's just like forming a company. Nonprofits have to have relationships with banks. So it's the same process any corporation would go through in terms of getting credit. And for a new nonprofit, it's a little bit more difficult because you don't have a track record. You don't really have a financial history to present to a bank. But there's a process for that, and the more of a track record you could show, the more easier you have access to capital.
Okay. Aisha is asking, will the course discuss the potential or how to start your own fundraising business? Not necessarily working for a nonprofit. And then also, how do these courses overlap with the grant writing courses that are available at Dominguez Hills?
Okay, if you want to start your own fundraising business, and I've worked for a couple over my career, direct marketing companies, This course will definitely help because in order to have a company like that that helps other organizations raise money, you really need to understand how fundraising operates. It was so beneficial to me, having worked in the industry, know about fundraising, know the basics, know the analytics, fundraising analytics, know what works and doesn't work, then to switch over to working for a firm that helped other companies raise money. I had a broad and deep well of experience to help the other nonprofits. So I think if somebody was thinking of starting a company like that, I definitely would recommend taking this course to understand it. Second part of the question was, how does it overlap? We are going to spend course number 3 is going to talk about approaching institutional funders, and a lot of those require proposals. And so we're not going to go into depth, the same depth that you would get from taking the grant writing and administration course that's offered, but we'll touch on the basics where somebody would be able to write a good letter of inquiry. They know what goes into a proposal that you would pull together, how to do a program budget. The basic areas of putting together a proposal so that you know what you're doing and could approach an institutional funder. But again, if you're really interested in that, you can then dive into the grant writing and administration course and really in depth, you'll learn the ins and outs of making proposals and approaching both government and non-government funders. We're going to focus in this course mostly on private foundations and corporations, whereas the grant writing administration course focus a lot on proposals for government funding.
Very good. Okay. So what if you're thinking about getting into this industry and you're not so comfortable with selling or asking for money and that sort of thing? Does this program address people who are a little bit reticent on that subject?
Well, Keith, that's a great question because some people do have that difficulty of making the ask, so to speak, is what we call it in the industry. And that's okay because there's all kinds of support positions that are available or are part of the overall fundraising genre. So there's event coordinators, there's people behind the scenes. We didn't even touch on database people. Most organizations of any size have a donor database, a CRM, customer relations management system, and that's a career path in and of itself. And a good a person who knows how to navigate CRM and understands it really well can also pursue a very good career in support of nonprofits. So they're the ones putting all the names in the system and keeping all the data clean so that you can use that data to approach people for funding and for additional funding. So not all career paths in fundraising are the kind where you have to directly stand in front of people and make an ask. There's plenty of other positions out there. But I think the course will, I think, make you a little bit more familiar with making the ask, and maybe it won't be so daunting when you're thinking about, oh, how could I ever get? I remember going to a conference one time, and the main speaker got up and said, his name happened to be Art Gay, and he said, "My name's Art Gay. I raise money for hungry children, and I'm not ashamed of it." And that was sort of a turning point in my thinking about fundraising. I thought, you know what? If you're raising money for a good cause, that cause is worthy of support, I said to myself, there's no reason why I shouldn't be asking people. So I think this course will give you that kind of confidence when you understand what fundraising is all about. And it's all about relationships and building those relationships. So it becomes almost easy. People are almost ready for you to say, well, what do you need? I was on a call just today with a donor, and I just called to thank her for 94 years old, just called to thank her for her faithful giving. Over the years, she'd given well over 6 figures in gifts. And I'm just talking to her, and she said, well, Chris, what do you need money for? I didn't even have to ask her. And I didn't ask her. I said, well, I was really just calling to thank you, but we can get together later and talk about some of your interests and whatnot. So there are people that give to charities are generous people. They've got a heart for giving, and oftentimes it's just the door's open to make an ask. So I think this course will help.
Very good. Okay. So we're living in interesting times right now, and there's a lot of demand for what nonprofits are delivering. And so, do the courses address and so shall we say an oversaturation of giving requests with so many charitable organizations out there and asking for money?
Yeah, that's a good question because the sector is changing. The information I'm reading, articles and whatnot, the research and analysis is showing that people are giving to fewer charities, but sometimes giving more money to fewer charities. There is somewhat of a coming out of COVID. There's a little bit of donor fatigue. People gave and gave and gave during COVID to help people in need and whatnot. The organization I was working at the time, we saw a huge bump in revenue in 2020 and 2021. And then it sort of fell back to the normal pattern of giving. But there are a lot of charities, 1.5 million. They have their hand out. People are looking for new and creative ways, and we're going to talk about some of those things in this course in how to approach donors. But I still think if you have a cause that's worthy, a cause that's touching people, helping people, bringing hope to people, that there's still people with a heart to help others. And here in Los Angeles, the homeless crisis is just in front of you every single day. And found that people still want to respond. They want to do something. They drive down the street, they see people living in tents and say, my gosh, can this really be happening? What can I do? And then they get a letter or they get an email or they see something on social media. Hey, you can help somebody suffering homelessness. And then they're ready to give. So I would say that there's some softening in giving. But I have always been of the approach, well, that's not the time to pull back. That's the time to put your pedal to the metal and get out there and continue to talk to people about what your organization is doing, what the need is, and what their gift can accomplish. And then don't forget, you need to thank donors and report back to them. You said you had a need. You said you needed my gift. I gave it to you. So what happened? And that whole process, we're going to be talking about that in this course, is how do you keep that donor cycle going? So one of the things one of the challenges, I guess you'd say, of fundraising today is keeping donors, donor retention. Often donors don't stay very long. And one of the primary reasons donors say, why did you leave? They didn't thank me, or they thanked me, but they never told me that my gift made a difference. And if you're doing those things and staying connected to people and view it as a relationship and treating donors as donors, as valuable to your organization, you'll see a return on your fundraising efforts.
Awesome. Okay. We did get a couple of questions earlier about the program cost, and I just want to tell people there are a couple different resources. You can download the information kit from the chat. The address is bit.ly/CSUDH-PFC-info kit, or you can go to our website at csudh.edu/ccpe/fundraising/courses. Two different ways you can get the costs of the courses. Chris, a couple of more or less logistical questions. Do people need to buy any textbooks for this program?
Well, we have a recommended list of textbooks, and that's on the course explanation there. I'd say the key book to get, and I hesitated making it mandatory that people buy it, but it's such a good book. It's called Relationship Fundraising by Ken Burnett. He's actually a Brit. I ran across this book, his first edition, many years ago, and I've probably kept the guy in business because I bought so many copies of that book, and then I give it away, and then I have to go out and buy another one and give it away. When I have come into new work situations and have new staff, I say buy this book and read it, because you'll understand fundraising, but you'll also understand how I think about fundraising. It is by far the best book out there that I've ever found, and I've read a lot of them, hundreds of them, or at least dozens of them since I've been in fundraising. So relationship fundraising is one of the recommended texts, and I would say, hey, even if you don't take this course, go out and get that book, because you will learn a lot about fundraising that you maybe had never thought of before. But the whole premise is, which I firmly believe, fundraising is about relationships, building relationships, fostering them, stewarding them, and really coming in tune with the wishes of the donor and being donor centric. Organizations need to be donor centric. Donors don't want to hear about how good the organization is. They want to hear about what needs are you meeting, and how can I come alongside you and help you with that. The organization is just the middleman. You're connecting, your job is to connect the donor with a need. And that's what relationship fundraising is all about. So there's a couple other books. You'll see the list there. All good books. I just picked out kind of the best ones I've seen. But relationship fundraising, get it, read it, digest it, live it, breathe it, and do it.
Very good. Awesome. Okay. So these courses are conducted live online on weekday evenings. And what happens if somebody has a schedule conflict on the day of class?
Well, the rules are that you have to attend every class. I think there's probably a little bit of discretion there, but I would defer to the powers that be about exactly what I think. If you go into it, you just got to commit. I'm gonna have those three Tuesday nights in a row. I'm gonna be committed to doing it. When I took the Grantwriting course, I had to miss a class, so I had to wait till the next semester and pick that class up in order to finish the overall certificate program. So those things happen. We know they do. Life happens. I'm sure there's ways to work around that, but really, I think people, when you sign up, just say, hey, I'm committed to taking the three classes in a row and not missing anything. Because truthfully, you miss something, you've missed something. Part of the class and part of the flow of the whole curriculum you would have missed.
Very good. Okay. And then something else that usually comes in, what sort of certificate do people get? And I'll answer that. You get both a digital credential, which you can share on social media, as well as a paper certificate that you can hang on your wall. So you would have all this for prospective employers that you can show them. So I think that we've exhausted our questions for today, and we're just about at time. So we've covered a great deal of information regarding the program. But in case we missed anything, feel free to email or call us during our business hours, which are Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. And you can reach us at learn@csudh.edu or 310-243-2075. When you're ready to take the next steps to register, you can just go on our website, csudh.edu/ccpe/fundraising/courses, and register online right there. This will conclude our Professional Fundraising Certificate Program information session, and we want to thank you for joining us today. Feel free to connect with us on our website and via social media on our Facebook page and LinkedIn group. And remember to register early to get your spot in your preferred classes. We'd love to get your feedback on today's session, so please let us know how we can improve the quality of information provided by visiting bit.ly/CSUDH-webinar-feedback. The survey will also be available in a follow-up email to attendees. We'll stay in the session for a few more minutes to give everyone a chance to jot down last-minute notes, and download the Professional Fundraising Info Kit from the chat panel. The recording for this session will be online shortly on our website and linked via social media as well. When you're ready to leave, simply click the red leave button in the corner of your screen. Once again, thank you for joining us. Stay safe, and we'll look forward to seeing you in class. Bye now.
Okie dokie.